What if the most alien environment ever discovered by science is not on Mars, not on Europa, not in some distant exoplanet system, but right here on Earth? Hidden beneath miles of black water where sunlight has never existed? What if the place that best resembles another world is not above our heads, but beneath our oceans? And what if the greatest frontier of discovery in the 21st century is not space exploration, but the exploration of the deep ocean, a realm so extreme that reaching it is often more dangerous than leaving our planet entirely? At first, this sounds counterintuitive. Humanity has sent probes beyond the solar system. We have walked on the moon. We operate robotic laboratories on Mars. Yet more than 80% of the deep ocean floor remains unmapped in high resolution. More humans have stood on the surface of the moon than have visited the deepest parts of the ocean. This is not because the ocean is farther away. It is because it is harder to survive there. The deep ocean is not simply deep water. It is a separate world governed by different physical rules, biological limits, and evolutionary strategies. It is a place where pressure replaces gravity as the dominant environmental force, where temperature barely changes for millions of years, and where life exists without any connection to sunlight. Understanding why this environment remains so difficult to explore reveals something surprising about our own technological limits and about the hidden boundaries of life itself. To understand why the deep ocean represents Earth's last frontier, we first need to understand its scale. The average depth of the global ocean is about 3,700 meters, or roughly 12,100 feet. But this average hides a much larger reality. Vast abyssal plains stretch between 4,000 and 6,000 meters deep, covering more than half the surface of the planet. Below that lie the hadal zone's deep ocean trenches reaching beyond 10,000 meters. If Mount Everest were placed inside the Mariana Trench, its peak would still sit more than a mile underwater. This environment is not rare. It is not a small corner of the planet. The deep sea is actually Earth's largest ecosystem. More than 90% of the habitable volume on Earth exists in the ocean, and most of that exists in darkness. From a biological perspective, the surface world humans inhabit is actually the minority habitat. The darkness begins surprisingly early. At around 200 meters, sunlight begins to fade rapidly. By 1,000 meters, the ocean is essentially black. Below this depth exists a permanent night that has lasted for hundreds of millions of years. Entire ecosystems have evolved without ever experiencing sunrise. This raises a deeper question scientists continue to investigate. If most of Earth's living space exists in darkness and pressure, why did complex intelligence like ours evolve in the thin, fragile layer of sunlight instead? The deep ocean is defined not just by depth, but by extremes. At 4,000 meters, pressure reaches about 400 times the pressure at sea level. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, pressure exceeds 1,000 atmospheres. That is equivalent to having the weight of a commercial jet pressing on every square inch of your body. Water temperature in most deep regions remains between 1 and 4 degrees Celsius, just above freezing. Food is extremely scarce. There is no photosynthesis. There are no plants. Most energy arrives as falling organic debris, sometimes called marine snow, tiny fragments of dead organisms drifting slowly downward from the surface. These conditions combine into what scientists call an energy-limited ecosystem. Life here must survive on minimal resources while resisting enormous mechanical stress. Chemical reactions occur more slowly in cold environments, meaning metabolism itself becomes constrained. The deeper we look, the more we find that survival here depends not on strength, but on efficiency. Nothing can afford waste. Nothing can afford unnecessary movement. In many cases, survival depends on doing almost nothing at all. This leads to another mystery researchers are still trying to answer. How little energy can life use and still remain alive? Humans cannot simply adapt to this environment. Our biology is fundamentally incompatible with it. The gases dissolved in our blood become dangerous under pressure. Our lungs collapse. Nitrogen becomes narcotic. Oxygen becomes toxic. Our cells themselves are built for a narrow pressure range defined by surface evolution. Even if pressure could be solved, temperature would present another barrier. Human enzymes function within narrow thermal windows. Deep-sea temperatures would slow our physiology toward failure. Without artificial heating and pressurization, survival would last minutes. Even our psychology works against us. Humans evolved in environments filled with sensory input: light, sound, movement. The deep ocean offers almost none of this. Long-duration deep submergence missions have shown that sensory deprivation itself becomes a major stress factor. Technology becomes our only bridge. Pressure spheres made from titanium or specialized ceramics. Syntactic foams filled with microscopic glass bubbles to resist compression. Acrylic viewports carefully engineered to flex without breaking. Every descent into the deep ocean is less like diving and more like operating a small spacecraft, except the spacecraft is being crushed instead of pulled apart. This is why oceanographers often say that deep-sea exploration is inner space exploration. Yet life did what humans could not. Instead of resisting the environment, deep-sea organisms evolved to match it. Fish at great depth often lack gas-filled swim bladders entirely, eliminating collapse risk. Their tissues contain molecules called piezolites, which stabilize proteins under pressure. Many species rely on flexible membranes, rich in unsaturated fats, that remain functional in cold temperatures. Enzymes evolve structures that remain stable under compression. Some organisms grow slowly and live for decades or even centuries, conserving energy. Perhaps most remarkable is how life survives without sunlight. Entire ecosystems depend instead on chemosynthesis. At hydrothermal vents, bacteria use chemicals like hydrogen sulfide to produce energy, forming the base of food webs completely independent of the sunday. This discovery in the late 1970s fundamentally changed biology. It demonstrated that sunlight is not required for complex ecosystems. It suggested that life might exist on icy moons like Europa or Enceladus, where similar chemical energy sources may exist beneath frozen crusts. The deep ocean did not just expand our understanding of Earth, it expanded our understanding of where life might exist in the universe. Evolution in the deep sea often produces what scientists call extreme adaptations. Some fish develop enormous mouths relative to body size, allowing them to consume any rare prey encountered. Others develop transparent bodies, minimizing visibility in the darkness. Bioluminescence becomes one of the most important biological tools. Light production through chemical reactions allows communication, camouflage, and hunting. Some species use counterillumination, producing light on their undersides to erase their silhouette when viewed from below. Certain animals develop expandable stomachs to survive long periods without food. Others become gelatinous, reducing the energy cost of building dense tissue. Some species display gigantism, while others become miniature, depending on ecological pressures. Many deep-sea species also show reduced skeletal mineralization. Bone is expensive to build. In a resource-poor environment, evolution often favors softer structures. Each of these traits reflects a simple truth. In extreme environments, evolution does not aim for perfection. It aims for survival at the lowest possible cost. These adaptations do not exist in isolation. Every change affects entire ecosystems. Predators must adapt to prey that are rare. Scavengers must locate food that may fall only occasionally. Reproductive strategies often rely on producing fewer offspring, but investing more in each one. Some species have evolved extraordinary solutions to simply finding a mate. Deep-sea anglerfish males may permanently fuse with females, becoming biological appendages that provide sperm on demand. In an environment where encounters are rare, evolution removes the need to search twice. Food webs often stretch across enormous vertical distances. Organic material falling from surface waters feeds communities thousands of meters below. Whale falls when a whale carcass sinks can support entire ecosystems for decades. These connections remind us that the deep ocean is not isolated from the surface. It is part of a continuous planetary system. Changes in surface productivity, climate patterns, and fisheries can cascade downward into the deepest ecosystems. The frontier is not separate from our world. It is connected to it in ways we are only beginning to measure. Beneath the deep ocean lies a hidden geography as complex as any continent. Mountain ranges longer than the Andes run along mid-ocean ridges. Vast fracture zones cut across the seafloor. Subduction trenches mark the boundaries of tectonic plates. The longest mountain chain on Earth is underwater. Hydrothermal vents form mineral towers where superheated water meets freezing seawater. Cold seeps release methane from buried sediments. Submarine canyons rival the Grand Canyon in scale. Modern sonar mapping continues to reveal structures we did not know existed even decades ago. Some underwater volcanoes rise thousands of meters from the seafloor yet remain completely unseen from the surface. Mapping this terrain is not simply geographic curiosity. Seafloor structure influences ocean circulation, carbon storage, earthquake dynamics, and even long-term climate stability. In many ways, we know the surface of Mars in better topographic detail than we know our own ocean floor. Deep time operates differently in the abyss. Many environments remain stable for millions of years. Without sunlight cycles or seasonal variation, evolutionary change can proceed along unusual pathways. Some species appear to change very slowly, resembling ancient fossil forms. Others diversify rapidly around specialized ecological niches. Isolation between trenches may produce unique evolutionary lineages. There is also growing evidence that deep ocean sediments preserve long-term biological records of climate change. Microfossils accumulate layer by layer, recording shifts in ocean chemistry, temperature, and circulation. Studying these records allows scientists to reconstruct Earth's climate history far beyond human timescales. The deep ocean becomes not just a habitat, but an archive. In this way, exploring the deep ocean is also a form of time travel. Understanding the deep ocean matters far beyond curiosity. It affects climate regulation, fisheries, sustainability, biotechnology, and planetary science. Deep ocean currents redistribute heat across the globe. Carbon burial in marine sediments helps regulate atmospheric CO2 over geological time. Compounds discovered in deep-sea organisms have already contributed to medical research, including enzymes useful in molecular biology and compounds with potential pharmaceutical value. There is also increasing concern about human impact. Deep-sea mining proposals aim to extract rare minerals from abyssal plains. Scientists warn we still lack sufficient baseline knowledge to predict ecological consequences. The last frontier is not just something to explore. It is something we must decide how to protect. So we return to the original question. Why is the deep ocean still Earth's last frontier? It is not because we lack curiosity. It is because this environment pushes against the limits of physics, engineering, and biology simultaneously. It demands technologies as complex as spaceflight, but without the visibility or political urgency that space programs often receive. And yet, every expedition continues to reveal something unexpected. New species, new chemical processes, new geological formations. The frontier remains because discovery has not slowed. Perhaps the deeper realization is this: we are not just exploring the deep ocean to understand it, we are exploring it to understand the boundaries of life itself. If the history of science has taught us anything, it is that the greatest discoveries often come not from looking farther away, but from looking deeper into what we thought we already understood. The deep ocean reminds us that mystery is not disappearing from Earth. It is simply harder to reach. Somewhere tonight, far below the surface, creatures are moving through complete darkness, using senses we barely understand. Chemical ecosystems are operating without sunlight. Geological processes are reshaping the planet in silence, and most of it remains unseen. The last frontier on Earth was never space alone. It was always the hidden world beneath the waves, waiting for us to develop the patience, humility, and technology required to understand it. And perhaps the most important question is not how deep the ocean is, but how deep our curiosity is willing to go. If you find yourself drawn to the quiet frontiers of Earth, the places where science meets mystery and discovery still feels possible, you may find more journeys like this with Sunken Realms Deep, where exploration is not about spectacle, but about understanding the hidden systems that shape our world.